Hey everyone, welcome to a new video, welcome to my channel. My name is Micah. Today we are going to be talking about my top 10 most inspiring color stories. Sometimes you just have those palettes that make you go like, you're interesting. And that is just something that I then like playing around with and making looks with and all that. Are these always going to be my ultimate favorite eyeshadow palettes? Not necessarily, because deep down inside, I'm a neutral girl at heart. I'm not gonna lie, but I definitely wanted to mention some of my more interesting color stories and why, sort of like the kind of color stories that I feel put me out there and try to challenge me to do different things, you could say. So I've got 10 palettes here for you today, and let's just get to it straight away. So I'm sorry about the attire, but today we're dealing with a heat wave, so the hair is up in a ponytail and I'm wearing just a strappy top because your girl can't deal. It's getting very, very hot and toasty as I'm filming. I'm trying to film some videos back to back today so that I have everything lying on the shelf because I like being prepared when I'm trying to get more content up than I usually do. So the first palette I would like to start off with is the one that I'm currently wearing on my face. And it's this one, and this is the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde. Ooh, I apologize for the glare there. And I just did a look with it for the first time today, and I've used this part of the palette over here. And for me, as I was like deciding what I wanted to do with this palette, I decided to not sort of like cut it into halves, but to cut it into like little blocks of 6. So that's what I plan on doing when it comes to making looks with this now. So hopefully this is more like pinky purple, and this is a little bit more like neutral with a pop of like turquoise. So we'll see how it goes. So far, loving it. I use this shimmer all over the lid, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And one of the reasons why I find this color story is inspiring to me, I already mentioned, I'm a neutral girl at heart. So all of these like matte neutrals that you get in here, but then shimmers with a nice twist, and also like these 4 shades at the top that can really sort of give you that pop of brightness. I just love it. I live for palettes like this where I can just have fun, but it won't look too out there when I go to work or anything like that. This is just one of those palettes that just really, really inspires me to get more out of my neutral looks, if you could say. So if I'm stuck in like this very neutral rut and all I'm wearing is like taupes and browns, then a palette like this can really help me to just, you know, even if I just put a pop of something on the lower lash line, that could already work, you know. So for me, this palette is definitely a really good palette for people who also want to dip their toes into like more colorful looks. By now, I have no issues wearing more colorful looks for sure. But this palette is just, it's just me going back to my roots, and sometimes that's just good. Another quite recent eyeshadow palette that, like, I'm still in the midst of trying this, but I only just finished doing looks with my Kaleidos palettes, and I have to give it to Collidos and their color stories. I wasn't always a huge fan of the quality of the mattes in these little palettes, but the Futurism 5, what's it called again? Electro Turquoise. This is such a stunning little color story, you guys. Like, if you get just one of these, make it this one. Because this is, oh, this is so, so great. You know how I feel about teals and those kind of shades. So this gives you a matte teal. This is a duochrome. I'm not sure if you can, do you see that? It has that like golden flash to it. So stunning all over the eyes. This orange may throw you off and make you go like, wait, what am I supposed to do with that? But remember that, you know, Morphe 350 has oranges, which you can use as a neutral. So the orange with the brown really pull together as a very nice like neutral base for a look, I find. And then you get this really nice like turquoisey, aqua kind of matte. Very stunning, really, really pretty. And what I like about this is that you can make it quite neutral if you were to just stick to the orange and this shimmer and the brown, or you can make it very blue toned if you go for more of the blue and turquoises in here. So for me, such a clever little palette, really, really lovely color story, and I can't wait to see what else Kaleidos comes out with, because they seem to be really having a knack for just finding interesting shades to go together that make you go like, how does that even work, you know? I definitely felt that way before I put this on, but very intriguing, and it works really well. Another quite recent try here is the Limecrime Prelude Chroma palette. I think you can still get this. This was released this spring, and of course, again, teals. Oh, I think I've got like 3 palettes here with like turquoises and teals. I do apologize, but it's what I'm into at the moment. And what I like about this is because these 2 warm tones kind of threw me off. They sort of gave me like a, like threw me for a loop, going like, oh, what am I supposed to do with that? But the gold goes really well with the teal. The peach is really nice with the purple. However, you can go for an old teal look with this because this lighter shade has a bit of a green flip to it. Again, let me see if I can make it catch the light. I'm not. But yeah, it has a really, really nice green flip to it. So like these 4 together, you've got a nice transition shade, and then just something to deepen it up, something for the lid, something for the inner corner. Really pretty. And then this yellow toned like inner corner shade goes really well with the gold as well. The purple in here just, again, gives you a little bit of dimension and playfulness to it. It's such a nice curated 8-pen color story that I just, like, the more I look at this, the more different looks come to mind. And to me, that makes for a very inspiring color story. And I feel very much the same about this palette. This is the Menagerie Cosmetics Feral palette, and look at the stunning packaging. This wolf, and then we have all of these like fae, like people floating around it. And a lot of the colors that are in the actual palette are in this packaging, which I think is super clever. And this as well, like you get a couple of like neutrals, and then you can get a couple of really stunning greens. This shimmer here, so stunning. But what I liked about this palette the most, again, that turquoisey, like tealy aqua shade, and then also this wolfling shade. That is such a pretty like duochrome. I think I just did a look with this when I first tried this palette, where I used these 2 browns as like just a matte setup for a look. Put this all over the lid, that on the lower lash line as a pop of something different. Really nice. The reason why this palette threw me off at first and I didn't know what to do with it is because it seems to be such a mixed bag between quite cool toned stuff and then very warm toned stuff. And I was like, how is it going to play together, man? I really didn't know. However, what I found works really well with this palette, you only get 3 shimmers. 1, 2, 3. But if you sort of think of looks that can work with those shimmers, I feel that that works best in terms of how everything plays together in this palette. So for me, really inspiring color story, and like the Limecrime, the more I look at this, the more I go like, oh, but I'd like to try that, and I'd like to try that with it, and I'd like to try that with it. And Menagerie also, again, ticks that box for me very well. Like, I just love what they do in their color stories. I would like to get some more Menagerie palettes, but they're currently not shipping to Europe. So I wish they, like USPS, just, you know, get your affairs in order and sort out the delays, because that's why the brand is currently not selling anything outside of Canada and the US. So for me, that's a bit of a bummer, because I really want to try their Whale Song and their Pastel Pup. Oh, they have such lovely products, so can't wait to try some more Menagerie at some point in time. A color story that I really like, because I'm quite fair, and again, like the Mercury Retrograde, you could say, I'm always looking for these like neutrally palettes that can sort of take things to the next level for me. And I feel that Nabla's Soul Blooming does that just fine. It has this really pretty sleeve, which is why I still have it, and then that's the palette itself. It's so pretty. I just think that if you have anything deeper than a light medium skin tone, this may not really work on you. For me, these 2 shades over here, like, apart from teals and taupes, I really love periwinkle, like periwinkle shades. And this is more of like a lavendery kind of blue kind of shade, very sort of that periwinkle realm that I like. It's got a really nice warm part over here as well, but you still get the neutrals to do a very neutral look. So like the Mercury Retrograde, for me, what this palette does is give me a neutral look but with a twist. And this is just, you know, springtime in a palette for me. And Nabla eyeshadow quality is just really stunning. I find they're just not always very consistent between shades. So there are definitely a few shades in this palette that you may need to foil and like build up and do a lot of work with in order to get the intensity that you might like. But trust me on this one, it's well worth the effort. I also wanted to feature some more affordable things in here, and one affordable palette that really took me by surprise how versatile it looked once I started using it. This wasn't something I thought of as I was just looking at it, but it would be the Colourpop Smoke Show. Now called Blowing Smoke, because they had to change the name on this one. And this is just such a lovely, cool toned eyeshadow palette, and I love that for this just essentially being grays and blacks and different renditions of it, this gives you a lot of options. A lot of options. I love how you get like something a little bit more plum in here. This is a little bit more, well, like bluish, undertoned almost. So you get lots of different versatility, like versatile looks, even though it's just blue, like blacks and grays. Like it's not that difficult to do a good palette, it seems. And this also has really, really stellar quality. Of the monochromatic palettes that I tried by Colourpop, this was definitely one of my favorites, just because it has really, really stunning quality. I can see myself going back to this. Every single time I look at this, I'm like, oh, I want to put it together, like, oh, but I want to do that shade with that shade, you know? So again, for something that looks quite boring, the Smoke Show by Colourpop is just stunning, stunning color story. Let's just talk about an OG color story that I still find inspiring till this day. Can you guess? ABH subculture, of course, because I've said many times, and I'll keep saying it, mine is absolutely fine. I got it later in the game, so I didn't have the very flaky formula that a lot of people hated. Mine is absolutely fine. If you have brown eyes, like me, this is your color story. It just is. This is a brown-eyed person's color story in a nutshell. You get a teal, which is absolutely the worst shade to work with in the entire palette, but because it's like the best teal ever, I treat it with love, and it's fine. You get mustards in here, you get murky greens, and I tried one or two dupes of this palette. I tried at least the Makeup Revolution one. Maybe I tried another one too. Can't remember, but I found that they just didn't hit the undertones that these shades have. These have a richness to them, whereas every single of the dupes that I've tried was very ashy and gray toned and just far less unique in my book. This just, this in the fall, and then I put a multi-chrome all over the lid. You guys, it was magic. It was magic. This is just my color story in a palette, which is why I'm so glad I went against everyone's recommendations of not getting this because it had bad quality. Because if you just like a color story this much, you'll make it work. You'll try to find that one brush that will go with it, or you just use your fingers. I have no issues with that either, so yeah. I love my subculture. Of course, we also had to feature some of my favorite brands in here, and one color story that I really like that Urban Decay came out with recently is their Naked Honey. I remember going like, oh, another Naked palette when this was released, and I was like, oh, but it's yellow tones. And this palette made me realize that if I want to do warm tones on myself, that the best thing to go for is yellows. And I don't know what it is about this palette, you guys, but it's got the mustardy, murky, browny shades that are just neutrals to my heart. Like, this was just so, so lovely. I loved every single look I did with this palette. Is it very versatile? I don't think so. I mean, it's a Naked palette. We get a lot of similar shades in here. And to be quite honest, if you cover these two up, I mean, what are we left with, really? You know? So it's not very versatile. However, I love neutral palettes that allow me to use every single shade in the palette. As you can see, this isn't going super deep and dark and black or whatever. So for me, this is just a really nice warm tone. Plus, if you put this together with the Naked Heat, if you already own that, if you didn't think Naked Heat was versatile enough and you don't find this versatile enough, but you pair them together, trust me on this one. it's lovely. You get a really, really nice look. And then we also need to mention this one. Again, I know I've been showing this palette so much that it's almost shameful how much I've showed you this palette in the videos that I'm doing this month with all these eyeshadow palettes. But the Melt Marte palette is just one of my favorite palettes by now. Like, it just is. This color story was just, oh, it's everything. It's everything. Like the greens and the teals and the blues and then these like wine colors. I can't stop raving about it, but it was limited edition. Why did you have to do that, Melt? But then again, Melt color stories are also quite interesting. They don't always hit the nail on the head. I had a look at that 420 planet. I had a look at that 420 eyeshadow palette that they came out with, and I was like, and they just seem to be redoing all of their stacks into palettes at the moment, which I have no issues with, but I already own a couple of them, and there's definitely a few of those stacks I'm like, I don't really need that in a palette version. So I do hope that for Christmas this year, they do something as interesting and stunning and lovely as they did this, as they did in 2019, because this palette, it's my baby. It definitely is. And last but not least, I want to talk about another OG that I think really sort of made me see like how to work with different colors and how a different color story can just be very helpful to create more interesting looks. And it's Juvia's Place, the Magic palette. I still have the old packaging that's like the size of your head. I wish I would have held out and gotten the smaller versions, I'm not gonna lie. This and the Masquerade I have in these very large, and it's just, you're never going to go through this. I have over 200 eyeshadow palettes. I'm never going to use this up. This has 2 rows of warm tones, 2 rows of cool tones. Need I say more? You get a couple of nice like neutrally shades in here that can tie together what else is going on here. You don't get a lot of mattes, but these 2 purples, life. These 2 blues, life. These like gray tones, life. The green tones, life. So for me, again, I could have also done without these, to be quite honest, because for me it's really in this part of the palette that I love things. However, I do feel that this sort of plays with what's going on here, as I already mentioned. The only shade I really feel like, really, is this very yellow tone gold. I'm not a big fan of yellow tone golds, but we get a really nice pink in here too. Like, it works really well. And if you put this cream with like some of these like mattes here, you can very easily customize your crease shade. This makes me happy to look at. You know, that whole Marie Kondo kind of thing, if it brings you joy, this palette brings me lots of joy, for sure. For sure. So thank you very much for watching this video, you guys. These are my top 10 most inspiring color stories for sure. I would love to know if you have one. Could you please leave it in a comment down below, because I'm always hoping to find other things that maybe I would like to try. And some of you have always, you know, given me great recommendations over the years, like, you know, you can try this, you can try that. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more by me. I'm currently still in the midst of talking about nothing but eyeshadow palettes here on my channel. So stay tuned, or maybe go back to other videos that you haven't watched yet. And yes, we're ending the month with my eyeshadow palette collection video. So we're definitely going to be talking about a lot of eyeshadow. I really hope you enjoyed watching this. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.